Red Bull Racing has been a Formula One powerhouse for 2 decades. They gave us Sebastian Vettel's legendary 4-year reign, and then they gave us Max Verstappen, the man who pushed the car to its absolute limits to secure 4 straight world titles from 2021 to 2024. But while Red Bull was completely dominating on the track, the team was tearing itself apart from the inside. You see, the architects who built this dynasty, Helmut Marko, Christian Horner and Adrian Newey, are all gone. And a massive wave of top engineers, mechanics and directors followed them out the door. Now, Max is the only one left and he's trapped in a team that seemingly won't listen to him anymore. He's driving a broken car he literally calls dangerous after crashing out of 2 consecutive Grand Prix. And after the disaster at Silverstone, his father Jos and his manager Raymond Vermeulen were seen visibly furious with the new team boss, Laurent Mekies. Right now, the entire F1 world is bracing for a massive announcement regarding Max's future. Is he going to McLaren? Is he going to Mercedes? Well, I'm going to stop you right there because this video is not about predicting his next move. Instead, we are going to look at the disease that led to the current situation. I'm going to share the complete untold backstory of the Red Bull corporate civil war, the mass talent exits and exactly what led to this ultimate breaking point. So if you click for that, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Section 1. The second rise of the Bull. When the turbo hybrid era started in 2014, Red Bull's first golden era had just ended. And when Sebastian Vettel left for Ferrari the following year, the team was left with a massive vacuum. They were desperate for a new generational talent. Enter a 17-year-old kid named Max Verstappen. You see, most drivers reach Formula 1 in their early 20s. But Max arrived so young and with so much raw, aggressive speed that the FIA had to literally rewrite their own rules so that nobody else could copy him. Max didn't conquer Formula 1 on his own. You see, behind this young prodigy was a highly specific, perfectly calibrated ecosystem that was designed to protect him, develop him, and turn him into an unstoppable weapon. To understand exactly how this Red Bull empire was built and why it is now collapsing, there are 5 critical characters you need to know. The first person is Dr. Helmut Marko. He was the ruthless architect of Red Bull's driver academy and the man who decided exactly who the team would build its future around. But more importantly, Marko was Max Verstappen's biggest internal ally. He scouted him, promoted him, and backed his aggressive rise to the main team. Marko was one of the last direct links to the original Red Bull power structure, meaning if his influence weakened, the protective shield around Max would crack with it. The second person is former team principal, Christian Horner. Horner's main role in this story is that he wasn't just team principal. He was the man who built Red Bull Racing into what it became. He sat at the absolute center of everything. Drivers, politics, technical direction, media handling, and the general functioning of the F1 empire. It was his job to make the organization work as a top team and ensure it stayed there. The third person is former Chief Technical Officer Adrian Newey. Newey's role in this story is simple. He was the man who gave Red Bull the cars to dominate with. For Max specifically, Newey matters because Max's most dominant years happened in machines shaped entirely by Newey's aerodynamic philosophy. So essentially in this structure, Horner ran the team, Marko shaped the talent side, and Newey was the technical force behind the championship eras. Now, there are 2 more people who play a vital role in this situation, because although these 2 weren't people who would make the corporate decisions, both of them had direct influence on Max personally. First is his race engineer, Gianpiero Lambiase. GP was the person who could handle Max's aggression, frustration and bluntness without the relationship breaking. He could calm him, push back on him and still keep his trust. For Red Bull, GP's value was that he translated Max to the team and the team to Max. But his move to McLaren, confirmed earlier this season, resulted in another crack to the 2026 Red Bull team. The last and arguably the most important person is his father, Jos Verstappen. Jos was an F1 driver himself back in the 90s and early 2000s. But the highlight of his career was not when he was racing in F1, it was when he was training Max to be an F1 world champion. After his F1 career ended in 2003, he shifted complete focus to his son, even stating it as his life project. When Max was just 15 years old, he was already winning world championships in karting. Max was not just another kid. And while Jos played a huge role as his father and manager, Red Bull was the one who put their faith in Max at such a young age. Now that we have laid the ground for the key people of both the Red Bull and Verstappen camp, let's quickly see how this led to the second rise of the Bull. Thanks to Helmut Marko's ruthless scouting system, Max was promoted straight into the main Red Bull team at just 18 years old, and he delivered immediately by winning his very first race in Spain. Over the next few years, Max was a diamond that needed polishing. But to truly fight for a world title, Red Bull needed an engine to match their aerodynamic genius. So Christian Horner made a massive operational gamble to partner with Honda in 2019. And it paid off. By 2021, the stage was set for the most intense championship battle in modern F1 history against Lewis Hamilton. For this fight, Adrian Newey delivered the RB16B. And while Max was fighting Hamilton wheel to wheel on the track, Christian Horner fought an absolute media war against Mercedes to shield his driver, while Helmut Marko fiercely protected Max from any public criticism. The untouchable trio operated perfectly, delivering Max his dramatic first world championship. And if 2021 was a fight, 2022 and 2023 were pure domination. With the new ground effect regulations, Adrian Newey built the historic RB19. In 2023, Max and Red Bull won 21 out of 22 races. Total statistical annihilation. With Max behind the wheel, Horner running the umpire, Newey designing the rockets, and Marko protecting the talent, Red Bull had built an invincible ecosystem. Or did they? With that, Max secured his third and eventually a hard-fought fourth world title in 2024. But everything that goes up must come down, because 2025 was the year the foundation started shattering. First, Christian Horner was sacked after a massive internal power struggle. Then Adrian Newey stepped away and packed his bags for Aston Martin. And finally, Helmut Marko announced his retirement. Just like that, the invincible shield around Max was gone. But what happened on the track? McLaren had now taken over. Even though Max drove to his limits and took the fight all the way to Abu Dhabi, it just wasn't enough. He lost the 2025 World Championship to Lando Norris by 2 points. Losing the title was heartbreaking, but what happened next in 2026 was purely toxic. Max was suddenly stuck driving a fundamentally broken car under brand new regulations that he absolutely despised. It all boiled over at the 2026 British Grand Prix, ending in a violent high-speed crash that had Max furiously calling his own car super dangerous. The Red Bull dream had officially turned into a nightmare. But to understand exactly how Max ended up in the gravel trap at Silverstone, fighting with his own pit wall, we need to rewind. Section 2. The Corporate Civil War and the Great Exodus. You see, for nearly 2 decades, Dietrich Mateschitz, the Austrian billionaire and co-founder of Red Bull, was the ultimate patriarch. He operated with absolute authority, and if there was a political dispute, Dietrich settled it. He was the protective shield that kept corporate politics completely out of the F1 garage. But in October 2022, Mateschitz unfortunately passed away, and suddenly the shield was gone. You see, Red Bull GmbH has a very unique ownership structure. The Austrian side, now represented by Mateschitz's 31-year-old son Mark, holds 49% of the company. But the Thai side of the business, led by Shalem Yuvidya, holds the 51% majority. For years, the Thai owners were silent partners, and they happily let the Austrians run the racing team. But with Dietrich gone, a massive power vacuum opened up, and the two sides of this $10 billion empire went to war over who controlled the racing team. But the spark that blew the whole thing up was Christian Horner. In early 2024, Horner faced severe allegations of inappropriate behavior. And although an internal investigation initially cleared him, the very next day an anonymous email leaked alleged WhatsApp chats to the entire F1 paddock. Now, the Austrian side of the board desperately wanted Horner sacked to protect the brand's image, but the Thai majority owner, Chalem Yuvidya, stepped in and gave Horner his absolute backing. He effectively vetoed the Austrians because of his 2% extra stake. So Horner survived the initial storm, but the damage was irreversible. The environment inside Milton Keynes became incredibly toxic, and it forced the founding pillars of Max Verstappen's success to completely collapse. Adrian Newey, a man who famously despises politics, had seen enough. He stepped back from F1 design duties in May 2024, officially packing his bags for Aston Martin in 2025. Just like that, the architectural genius behind Red Bull's dominance was gone. Then went Christian Horner himself. By mid-2025, as the team's performance plummeted and the boardroom friction became unbearable, his position became unsustainable. The team finally forced him out in September, handing him a massive £80 million severance package. And finally, Dr. Helmut Marko. Following the heartbreaking 2025 championship loss to Lando Norris, Marko announced his retirement at 82 years old, citing the profound emotional toll of the year as the reason. The big three were gone. But wait, it gets much worse. Rob Marshall, Red Bull's chief engineering officer of 17 years, left for McLaren. And ironically, he used his nearly 2 decades of Red Bull knowledge to help build the exact McLaren car that beat Max for the 2025 title. Dan Fallows, the head of aerodynamics, switched to Aston Martin. Michael Broadhurst, the principal aerodynamicist, was poached by Alpine. Then the trackside operations collapsed. Jonathan Wheatley, the sporting director and undisputed master of the pit wall for 18 years, left for Audi. Will Courtenay, the head of race strategy who made the brilliant aggressive calls that won Max multiple races, was aggressively poached by McLaren. Lee Stevenson, Max's longtime chief mechanic who had pulled off miraculous grid repairs for him, packed up for Sauber. Veteran trackside engineering chief Paul Monaghan, a man who had been there since 2005, decided he'd rather start afresh at Cadillac than manage Red Bull's decline. And what happened when Red Bull tried to promote from within? Ferrari swooped in and poached Guillaume Desoto, their top performance simulation expert. And in this way, Red Bull's monopoly on F1 talent was completely shattered. Enter the new regime. In July 2025, Laurent Mekies was brought in as the brand new team principal, overseen by corporate CEO Oliver Mintzlaff. But their immediate reaction to this chaos wasn't to stabilize the ship, it was to clear the house. HR directors, PR managers and marketing chiefs were abruptly sacked simply because they felt that they were Horner loyalists. Right in February 2026, on the eve of the brand new chassis hitting the track, chief designer Craig Skinner abruptly left the team after 20 years of service. The triangle that built this dynasty were already gone. The engineers who built the championship-winning cars were gone. And heading into the massive unknown of the 2026 regulations, Laurent Mekies was left holding the pieces of a hollowed-out paranoid empire by himself. So, the final section of this video, Section 3, the fallout and the ultimatum. You have to remember something fundamental about Max Verstappen. His entire life, from the time he was a toddler in a go-kart, has been one massive, uncompromising sacrifice to be at the absolute peak of motorsport. His father Jos made this a life project. Max didn't just want to reach Formula 1, he wanted to dominate it, and he absolutely did that. But right now, he's 28 years old and in the absolute prime of his career, and he wants to keep winning because a sacrifice that big should not be wasted. If the team he built his legacy with can no longer deliver, he's not going to just sit around and sink with the ship. But as the 2026 season kicked off, it became brutally clear that the ship was already underwater. Formula 1 introduced sweeping new regulations for 2026, forcing drivers into an extreme lift and coast driving style to save battery. Max absolutely hated it. He publicly called it anti-driving and compared it to playing Mario Kart. But it wasn't just the rules, because the new RB22 was a total disaster and a shell of its former title-winning cars. Max was suffering from software lockups in Australia, coolant faults in China, and by the time they reached Japan, he was so fed up he told the media he simply wasn't enjoying driving anymore. And remember how I said that Max was losing people he built this team with? Gianpiero Lambiase, Max's race engineer for his entire career at the senior Red Bull team, signed a deal to leave for McLaren. But the way Red Bull's new management reacted was a bit questionable. Technical director Pierre Vache actively started shutting Lambiase out of developmental meetings. But the reality of the car, the management and the internal paranoia completely exploded at the British Grand Prix. Throughout the Silverstone weekend, Max knew his setup was dangerously flawed. He even qualified a shocking 7th, slower than his 21-year-old rookie teammate Isaac Hadjar, something we rarely saw from his past teammates. So Max pleaded the new team principal Laurent Mekies to break Parc Ferme rules. He wanted to change the whole car setup and start from the pit lane, prioritizing drivability over grid position. But Mekies said no, a clear contrast to what Christian Horner would have done. Because while Horner used to shield and support his star driver, Mekies completely overruled the 4-time world champion. Red Bull's upside-down Macarena rear wing failed again with just a few laps left. Trapped in the cockpit, Max erupted over the radio in anger and threw his steering wheel. The trust was completely and irreversibly broken. You see, Max's manager Raymond Vermeulen is a very smart man. He had a specific performance clause written into Max's contract. It stated that if Max was not in the top 2 of the championship by the summer break of 2026, he could legally walk away from Red Bull for free. And because of the Silverstone crash and an overall underperforming season, Max is currently 7th in the standings and nowhere near the 2nd spot. That performance clause is the closest it's ever been to triggering. The Red Bull camp demanded Max to publicly show loyalty to calm their sponsors, but Max is still unsure. And right after the Silverstone crash, Max Verstappen and Vermeulen were caught on camera in a furious conversation with Mekies outside the hospitality suite. The Verstappen camp is done playing games. In fact, just days ago, a new photo leaked that is taking even more headlines. Max Verstappen and Raymond Vermeulen were spotted sitting down in Amsterdam with none other than Helmut Marko. What were they discussing? We don't know for sure. And that is how the current situation between Max Verstappen and Red Bull happened over not just 1 year but throughout seasons when everyone thought the team was perfect. So in that way, the team that conquered the world has hollowed itself out. His camp is reportedly in advanced talks with McLaren, while Mercedes is circling like a shark. Or knowing Max, he might completely leave Formula 1 to drive GT cars. But I want to know what you think. Is this the absolute end of Red Bull's dynasty? And if Max pulls the trigger, then where is he driving for 2027? Drop your predictions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Red Bull Civil War, then hit that like button. As a solo creator, it took a lot of effort in making this, and I hope that was visible in the production quality of the video. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.